C1 writing task 2 can seem impossible because you might get a report, a proposal, a review, or an email or a letter. And most students panic when they have so many different options. But here's the secret. They all follow the same C1 principles. In this video, I'm going to break down the 4 possible tasks that you might get in C1 task 2 of the writing exam. And I'm going to show you the universal structure that works for all of these formats. My students have a 100% pass rate, with 95% of my students passing on their first attempt, because they master this flexible system instead of memorizing separate templates for each format. Okay, so here's what you're going to learn in today's video. We're going to be taking a look at the 4 possible task 2 formats. Then I'll show you my universal 4-paragraph approach that works for all of these potential tasks. I'm going to show you how to adapt your tone for different audiences. So depending on what task you get, you will have to write in a slightly different way. And then I'll show you the common mistakes that instantly signal B2 level and how to avoid them. So before we begin, let's take a look at what the exam might look like. In part 1 of the writing test, you're given an essay to write, which is obligatory. You have to do it. Whereas in part 2, you get a choice of 3 different options and you have to choose one of those options. So here's how it looks. You have here, the first option is to write a report, the second option is to write a letter, and the third option down at the bottom is to write a review. There are other options that may come up, so let's take a look at them. The 4 C1 task 2 formats. The first one being a letter or an email. So you'll see a question that will say, write a letter or write an email to a specific person about a specific topic. The purpose of this letter or email will vary depending on who you're writing to. So it could be a letter of complaint, it could be a request for something, to make suggestions, it could be a thank you, it could be to offer advice to a friend. For the audience, it would vary depending on the specific individual. So depending on who you're writing to, your tone will either be more formal or less formal. Obviously, if you're writing an email to a friend, it can be informal, you can throw in phrasal verbs, colloquial language. Whereas if you're writing to the government or your town hall or something like that, then the tone would be more formal. So within that category of letter or email, there are different subtypes. I've already mentioned some of them. You could get a job application, so you're writing to apply for a position. You could get a letter to a friend or an email to a friend where you're giving advice about something or you're recommending something. Or it could be to an editor, in which case you'd be expressing your views on something that you've read. So here's a couple of potential questions. The first one here is, you read an article in an English language newspaper, and then you decide to write a letter to the editor of the newspaper explaining your views on the points raised in the article and giving reasons for your opinions. In this case, the tone will be pretty formal because you're writing to someone that you don't know. So you'd be in that letter expressing the points that you either agree with or disagree with and backing up your opinions with reasons. The second example here is more informal. This is a letter to a friend, giving your opinion and offering them advice about their situation. So in this case, it's a friend who's planning to study abroad, and you have to tell them what you think, basically. In my opinion, a letter or an email is a good option because we all know how to write letters, we all know how to write emails, and especially if we get the letter to a friend, I find this, in my personal opinion, to be a really good choice for the exam. Okay, second potential option is your review. Reviews can be of books, films, restaurants, courses, events, websites, you name it, it could be there. The purpose of a review, is to evaluate and inform potential users or potential customers. And in this case, your audience would be the general public or a specific readership. So aimed at people who read this magazine or that magazine. The review, in my opinion, it's hit or miss. It depends on the topic. If you get a review or get asked to write a review of a video game and you don't play video games, I would find that very, very difficult to write about, particularly because I'm not so creative, I'm not so imaginative. So trying to come up with information about a video game for me would be too much. Whereas if it was a review of a restaurant, maybe I would find that easier, or a review of a book. But if you're someone who never goes to restaurants, if you're someone who never reads books, then the review maybe is not the best choice for you. So with a review, you want your tone to be quite engaging, informative. You want the reader to be like interested in what you have to say. You don't want to read a review of, I went to this restaurant, it was really good. You want to expand on that. Why was it so good? What did you like about it? Why would other people like it? If you go to this restaurant, you've got to try the sushi, for example. You want to be blending your personal experience with like an objective assessment and give clear recommendation for readers. So the review should be quite descriptive, and it should also be quite analytical as well. So let's see. In this case, an English language magazine is looking at television talent shows around the world. You decide to write a review of a television talent show in your country. In your review, explain what happens on the show and evaluate whether it provides positive role models for young people. If you don't watch television talent shows, it could be quite difficult for you to write this, unless, like I said, you have a really good imagination. So my advice would be only choose this option if you actually feel like you have something to say and something to write about. Potential third option is the formal report. You would see something along the lines of write a report for your manager, write a report for your committee analyzing something. The purpose of a report is to present findings from something that you've done in the past and then make recommendations about how to make it better in the future. Your audience would be probably professional academic superiors. You might be asked, for example, you started a new job and you're asked to write a report to your manager about how it's going so far. Or you could have organized some kind of trip or course, and then after that course has taken place, you'll then present a report to someone above you, your boss, your teacher, about how that course went. In a report, you want to be talking about findings, like information that you have, feedback that you have from that event. So let's say, for example, you organized a language speaking course for people in the university. Then afterwards, your professor has asked you to write a report on how it went. You would want to, in your report, you would want to say where you got your information from. So you would say, after the language speaking course, I gave all of the students a questionnaire, and from that questionnaire, 80% of students said they loved it. 10% of students said they would never do it again. 50% of students recommended it be longer, shorter, for example. So you want to be saying where you got your information from, and from that information, what was good, what was positive, what was negative, what could potentially be improved for next time. Let's see. So the difference with reports, before we look at the structure, the report uses subheadings. So for the report, you would have a title, and your title would say something like Report on Language Speaking Course. Then you would have your introduction. The aim of this report is to evaluate the effectiveness of the language speaking course, and you're going to talk about the length of the course, the cost of the course, something like that. So your first subheading could be length of course. Then you would analyze that point. 85% of people said that the length of the course was perfect, whereas the other 15% suggested that we make it longer because they didn't have enough time to study outside of the class, blah, 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 blah. Your subheading 2 could be the cost. It was too expensive for some people, something like that. And then your conclusion. In your conclusion, you would be offering recommendations or suggestions based on what you've already said. So in the future, I recommend that the course be 1 week longer and the price be X amount, something like this. So here is an example of a report. In this case, you're studying at an international college and you've recently attended a careers day organized by the college to help students prepare for work. The event included information about how to identify suitable jobs, workshops on writing effective job applications, and advice on how to do well in interviews. The college principal asked you to write a report evaluating to what extent the event was successful and make recommendations for next year's events. So who you're writing to, you're writing to the college principal. What are you writing about? How effective this event was. And your subheadings here could be how to identify suitable jobs, workshops, advice on how to do well in interviews. And then you would have your recommendations of perhaps next year we should do this, we shouldn't do this, we could add this, we could remove this, etc. So the final option that you may get in task 2 of the C1 writing exam is the proposal. In terms of format, it's very similar to the report. Again, the proposal would have these subheadings. It will be making recommendations or suggesting solutions. So whereas the report is reporting on something that has happened in the past, a proposal is proposing something for the future. So you might see, write a proposal suggesting improvements to your local library. So you want to suggest solutions and persuade decision makers. So in order to overcome this problem, I suggest we do this. Your audience in this case would be people with authority to implement changes. So managers, governments, superiors. So your report would be persuasive. It will be a forward-looking tone. So towards the future, you will be identifying problems and offering solutions for those problems. And you would also be talking about the benefits and the implementation details. Why would your solutions work? And then calls for action. We should do this. An example of a proposal could look something along the lines of, you work at an international company and you or your colleagues would like to attend a language course. You decide to write a proposal to your director suggesting that the company help with the cost of the course. So in this case, in your proposal, you need to give your director all of the information about the course, so the time and the cost involved, and why is that course relevant to you and your colleagues. So in essence, you're trying to persuade someone to give you money for something or to do something for you with your proposal. So there you have the 4 different options: your letter, email, review, report, your proposal. Now let's look at my universal 4-paragraph structure that works for all of those different tasks. Your first paragraph. In paragraph 1, you should be given context and explaining your purpose. What are you writing about and why are you writing it? So for a report, that could look like, this report examines and provides recommendations for the review. Having recently experienced the amazing Thai restaurant in town, this review evaluates. Your proposal. This proposal outlines and suggests practical solutions for. For your letter, I'm writing to regarding what? So your first paragraph is laying out who you're writing to and what are you writing for. So every C1 task 2 follows the same logical flow. The only thing that changes is the language based on your audience and based on your purpose. Paragraph 2. In this paragraph, you would be presenting your main point or your main analysis. So for a report, that could be presenting your findings with supporting evidence. For your review, it could be a detailed evaluation of the positive aspects. For your proposal, it would be identifying a problem and proposing a solution. And with your letter, it would be your main concern or your request with some background information. Or if it's in the case of writing a letter to a friend or an email to a friend, it will be addressing one of their issues that they're having. So your third paragraph. In your third paragraph, you'd go on to your second point. So for your report, it would be alternative findings or a different point that you have. With the report, they normally break down exactly what they want you to talk about. So it could be cost, time, effectiveness. Your second paragraph here will be time. Review, areas for improvement or limitations. The proposal could be another problem, more solutions or additional benefits, or even addressing objections. And then your letter would be, again, additional points or consequences. Somebody wants to say hello to you. Hi. Okay, your final paragraph. Your final paragraph will be your conclusion and what action you want the person to take based on everything you've said before. So for your report, based on this analysis, I recommend we do this. For your review, overall, I would recommend to readers seeking whatever. Proposal, I urge you to consider implementing these suggestions. Letter, you're rounding off. I look forward to your prompt response. Hope to hear from you soon. Depends on who you're talking to. So there you have it, my 4-paragraph structure that works for your report. It works for your review, for your proposal, for your letter/email. So if you follow these 4 paragraphs, you will get really good marks just for your organization alone. Because remember, Cambridge doesn't just grade you on your grammar or your vocabulary. It also grades you on your ability to answer the question and to have your ideas really well organized. And you can organize them really well with this structure. So there is lots of specific language you can use for each of these different tasks. I won't go into it all today because I'd be here for hours, but in the future, I'll take each one of these tasks and break them down for you with specific phrases, specific vocabulary that you can use for each of them. The vocabulary that Cambridge examiners want to see. Before we end, let's take a look at some common mistakes that kill your score. So the first mistake is the wrong tone for the audience. So it will be wrong in this case to write informally to your boss. The right thing to do would be to match the formality level to your relationship with the person. So with a friend, informal; with a boss, with an editor, informal. No, formal, the other way. The second mistake would be using generic language. So it would be wrong to say in your review, for example, this is very good and I think people will like it. It would be better to say this represents exceptional value and would appeal to professionals seeking, just to give you an example. So try not to be so broad, try to be really specific. Why will people like it? The third and final mistake is no clear purpose. When you start writing and you ramble, is when you just go on and on and on without any focus. Examiners don't like that. Like I said, they want to see your ideas very clearly organized. So if you follow this 4-paragraph structure, you will get it right because you'll have a clear statement of purpose from the start in your introduction. Why am I writing? What am I writing about? I'm going to talk about this point and back it up. I'm going to talk about this other point and give reasons for it. And then I'm going to conclude all of that with suggestions for the future or recommendations. Okay, so those are the mistakes that people tend to make that lose them marks. And now that you know them, you're going to avoid it. Now that you have the complete system for any C1 Task 2 format, but knowing the structure is just the beginning. You need to practice with personalized feedback to master the subtle language differences that the C1 examiners expect. That's exactly what my Cambridge C1 Success students get. Unlimited writing corrections on both Task 1 and Task 2, plus weekly coaching sessions where we perfect these techniques together. With a 95% first attempt pass rate, it's the most effective way to guarantee your C1 certificate. So if you're ready to stop guessing and start mastering the C1 writing with expert guidance from me, check the link in my description or in the description of this video. There are limited spots available for the rest of 2020. 2025. And if you want to see how you do with the Cambridge C1 exam, I have a free mock exam available. It's a full use of English and reading paper with the answers. You also get a bonus listening test, and you have the ability to upgrade for a small amount to get your writing checked and your speaking checked by me. So the link for that will also be in the description of this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Jen, and I help you pass Cambridge with confidence.